welcome to another episode of the Taff tutorials from Taff HQ. This week we're going to be having a look at dotting. Now, I've been absolutely dreading this. I've been practicing like crazy all week. You might find one or two projects have already been uploaded, but they're not tutorials. Before I begin today, if you could subscribe to this channel and hit that little notification bell, that would be really appreciated. In this episode we're going to be looking at, let me just get these right in the right order now. We're going to be looking at tools, equipment and resources or alternatives, rocks and canvases, paints and basic techniques. I'm going to be working off a piece of card and then transferring what I've shown you onto a rock. That was easier for me, and now that I've done it, I'm thinking perhaps I could just go straight onto a rock. So I'll have a look at how it works with the two pieces, and then I'll see which ones that I include, or if I include both. Because we've got subsections in this video, what I'm going to do is, some of you might not need to know all of the information. Hopefully in the description box below, I'm going to put links so you can go direct to the timestamp. You can just skip past the bits that you're not interested in or don't need to know about. I hope that works for you. The first thing we're going to have a look at today are your dotting tools. Now, you can use so many different things. I started initially with wooden dowels. They worked fine for me. They came in various sizes. If the size I wanted wasn't available, I'd use a pencil sharpener to slim off the end. I've recently upgraded to these plastic dowels. There's your nail dotting tools. Those are great. You can get those in cheap shops, pound shops, dollar stores, whichever one's near you. I had a pack way back whenever and I lost most of it and lost the ends as well. So I bought myself a new pack anyway. Now, these are brilliant, but you need to dot straight down. So I've recently purchased these. Now, they're quite hefty, and what these help you with is you can put your paint on anywhere and it will come out like a dot, so you don't have to go straight down. You can do it side on, unlike these which need to be straight down. Now, you don't have to spend money on this kind of stuff. There are alternatives you can find. I'm just going to run through a few with you. So, do we have any yarn crafters out there? You can use your knitting needles. I would thoroughly discourage you from using your bamboo or your wooden needles because the paint's going to stain them. And I don't know what will happen. I don't know if it'll come out on your yarn project, but I strongly advise you against them. Also, there's your crochet hooks. Metal ones are always great because you can wash them. These type here have a point on the end, so perhaps this pack wouldn't be the best. The best pack would be ones with straight ends, but you can always try these. Because I've never tried them, I can't really comment, but give it a go anyway. We've got paintbrushes. You can use the right end of a paintbrush and you can use the wrong end. Various paintbrushes. They come in different sizes, some big, some small. These are beginning to look like all the same size here, but I do have different ones. So paintbrushes are cool. What else have I got? Oh yes, ballpoint pens. They will work great. Make sure it's one that's run out, only because you'll end up clogging it up with paint anyway. Any ballpoint pen will do. I wouldn't recommend a fibre tip pen. This was once a paintbrush, but the end broke off, so I used a pencil sharpener to make it nice and pointy for a good dotting tool. You've seen me use a pencil before. The eraser end of a pencil is brilliant. I wouldn't recommend using the eraser end of one that's been mangled and chewed up and used. A nice new one would work great. Plus, of course, the other end. What else have I got here? Oh, yes. Now, I use this for something else and I'll explain later. But I've seen people take the cotton ends off these cotton swabs and use those. They put a bit of paint on the end. After they've peeled all the cotton off, they put a bit of paint on the end, allow it to dry so you don't get the fluffiness. Some people have just cut them and just used the stick part. I've seen people use nails, screws, anything that you can make a point with. That's pretty much what I've seen people use. So your dotting tools are limited only by your imagination. I strongly suggest that you go around having a look before you even consider spending money on a project. Now you're still not ready. There's a few other bits of equipment that you need. A ruler, tape measure, whichever. I use this one because it's nice and flexible. A compass for helping me draw my guides. A pencil. I also use a chalk dressmaker pencil. You'll also need some Q-tips or cotton buds, cotton swabs, whatever you call. These are good as erasers. If you make a mistake, you can use this. You may also need some guidelines. You can purchase a stencil for these, or you can download this. It's in the description box below. Just cut these out, whichever one you want, 4, 5, 6, 7, obviously double them up if you want to. Cut the circle out, and the instructions are on the piece of paper. That's free. If you can't find a ruler that's flexible enough, a dressmaker's measuring tape is perfect because it will bend around your rock so you can draw a guideline on it and it'll go to whichever shape the rock is. Those are fantastic. If you don't have one of those, make your own out of a thin piece of card. If you have rocks that are not going travelling, why not buy some of these little gem stickers? I would not recommend, in fact I highly discourage you from using them on travelling rocks. We've got a midweek short on that coming soon. But they do look quite nice. This one was stuck on first. I don't know if you can see that it's stuck on there. This one was stuck on first, and then I carried on with the project around it. Or you could put your first dot on and then stick a sticker on. You can also use glitter if your rock's not going travelling. That's also brilliant. Your best type of rock is your one that is flat, or as flat as you can get it. It's very rare that you find one of these in a bag of rocks. You can buy these nice and flat, but they can be quite expensive. You've seen me do this in previous projects before. When I'm stuck for rocks, I make my own. These ones and this shape one, also relatively flat, were made out of concrete using this and this. These are soap molds, available pretty much anywhere, Amazon, Etsy, eBay. These ones here are different. These have been made using this mold, purposely for making rocks. I'll put the link for this in the description box below. And rather than using concrete for this project, I've used this stuff. This is a white plaster. It takes about an hour to set, and then you got to leave it for a few days. The longer you leave it, the better. I'll put a link for this in the description box below. No matter which rocks you use, or no matter which rocks I use, I always base coat them with black. These ones will not be travelling. They will be gifted. These ones, they will be travelling. Oh, except this one actually, because it's made of the same stuff as this. Paints then. Wow, you can get so many different types of paints. Some paints, like this, are quite thick, so they need conditioning or attending to. And some you could just use straight out of the lid. They don't need conditioning because they're thin enough. So these 3 blobs of paint are just your basic acrylic. As this comes out of the tub, you can see straight off that it leaves a nice little peak, which is not necessarily helpful when doing dotting. So I'm going to use this lollipop stick. Hopefully this works. And what I'm going to do is, with our first paint, the untreated paint, I'm going to put 2 blobs on here. Okay, so far so good. Now, let's have a look at the side profile. I don't know if you can see this. I'm doing my best. But it's got a big peak in the middle. How to resolve that is get a tool and smooth it out. The second paint I'm going to use is still the same paint, but it's been conditioned. There's 2 types of conditioner that I'd suggest for you, this one and another one. I'll put a link to those in the description box below. This is expensive, but when you consider how much you use, I used a pipette. So if I keep using pipette, this is going to last me forever. It's also good for paint pouring. So let's have a look what happens with this paint now. Same paint, don't forget. Right, ignore the 3rd dot. Let's try again. 1 dot. And the 2nd dot. Now again, this still leaves a little peak, but not as big as the first one. Same process. Mixing it is quite simple. Mix the 2 together and eyeball it. If you can see that it's not too runny and it doesn't leave a peak, then it's fine. Your next method is water. Now, don't pour the water in, drip it in, or dip a paintbrush in to mix. Again, I didn't mix a lot of water with this, and I will show you why. Let's just smooth this one off. By mixing water, your paint will lose its integrity, it'll lose its body, and it will look wishy-washy. I created this rock by watering down my paints, and whilst it might look good on camera, the yellow dots are actually supposed to be bigger, but there is a ring around where the paint just lost its integrity. Compare this to paints that I've had conditioner in. Far more vibrant. Yes, sure, they're a little bumpy, but you're never going to get a perfectly flat mandala style rock unless you use a paint pen. So it's whichever method works for you guys. I decided against using the card and the rock, but I'm still going to show you how I did the grids first. I started with a little dot in the middle. You can use the free resource in the description box below to help you make the grid lines. I started with a little white dot in the middle and divided my round piece of card or rock into separate pieces. I'm leaving the piece of card in here for a reference. As you can see, it's already divided into separate pieces. My first job then is on this rock is covering the white dot that I'm using for a centerpiece in my first colour. This is a large dot for the middle, which is a good idea to do. You can also see here that I'm using a smaller dotting tool to get rid of that little hump in the middle. With a smaller dotting tool then, I'm going to follow those 8 slices that I made on the piece of card. So I'm putting dots first at 3 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 9 o'clock and 12 o'clock, as if you're looking at the clock. And then I'm going to fill in the spaces. You can see here I've made an error, so with my little Q-tip, rub it out and start again. For our next row, I'm going to be using green, a larger dotting tool, and I'm placing a dot in between the 2 dots of the previous row and being very careful not to touch it. And once again, I'm using my little dotting tool to soften out those humps that's left. This next row is a pale lilac, would you believe? It doesn't show on the video. The same process as the green row. Take your dotting tool, place the new dot in between, but without touching the green ones. And don't forget, if you mess up, get your Q-tip and erase it and just do it again. Never worry if you make an error. As long as you can take it off whilst it's wet, shouldn't cause any problems at all. Take your little dotting tool, soften off the humps, and that's your next row done. This next process is called walking the dots. So we're taking our dots for a walk. I start this process by putting a smaller dot on top of each of the lilac colour dots, but it's going to be the largest dot of all. So I go all the way around, make a large dot, change to a smaller dotting tool, give it a good charge or put a lot of paint on it. Start at the side of the dot in the middle and without charging, just walk your dots down the side, and as you can see, they get smaller the less paint is on it. So just do that all the way around. I'm just using some orange now to fill in a couple of gaps. It's always good not to have any big spaces when you do a mandala style rock. I'll just continue to do this and add a few more. I'm using orange paint again. This time I'm eyeballing where the middle of the two largest dots are of this row, making my dot and then dragging the dot and the paint down toward the middle, making sure that I don't touch any other bits of paint if I can help it. This time using a yellow colour, you can see me do the same thing again, only off to one side, and instead of bringing the line straight down, I'm curving it gently around the dots that we walked down the side earlier. I'm just going to finish doing this all the way around, and it's quite effective. It looks really nice. In a later tutorial we are going to be having a look at overdotting, which you can see that I've done in previous projects, but for now I'm going to claw back just a little bit of credibility here with a little something on the side. As you can see, I'm going from larger to smaller dotting tools until I get to the point where I can just walk my dots. Trust me on this. And now, using the same process as we did for the orange and yellowy little bits, I'm going to add some things that I hope look like wings. This is the wood cookie from the midweek short recently where we were speaking of text. For this project I am just using random dots, but there is some kind of an order. I divided it without making any marks into 4 slices, coloured each section in a different colour. So I started, as you can see, with the darkest colour around the lettering, and then I worked out to a lighter colour. Started with the big dots first and then filled in any little dots, and where the one colour touches the next colour, you can see that I've done a few from the lighter colour into the darker colour and vice versa. This simple two-tone rock is another project that you could have a look at. It is, as you can see, quite simply black, white, with rows of dots in decreasing side going from the middle toward the back. Each time the next row of dots is in between the first row of dots. So when you do your first row, your second row then goes a little further back in between the first 2 dots of the previous row. If you found this week's tutorial really helpful, please like and share it with your friends. Don't forget to subscribe. If you want to support the channel, check out the links below. So until next time guys, keep on rocking!